Welcome to your bi-weekly murder, a show where we discuss the saddest, most tragic, or most disturbing murders of the past 2 weeks, as well as caught murderers, updates on past cases, and perhaps even your occasional serial killer. Alright, let's get to it. James Kaufman, 63 at the time, was arrested in 2012 for the murder of his wife. She apparently discovered that her husband had been selling prescription pills under the table to a biker gang, known as the Pagans Motorcycle Gang. After Kaufman's wife uncovered this illegal practice, she filed for a divorce, and threatened him by pursuing legal action against him. To cover up his tracks, he murdered her by calling a hit on her. Unfortunately, for him that is, investigators caught up to his little act and arrested him soon after. Just 6 years later, January 26, 2018, Kaufman would be found dead in his cell via suicide. He waited after his cellmate was called for a hearing to actually kill himself, which he did by ripping narrow strips of fabric from his bedsheets and tying them together to form a noose. In Mexico City, a woman who drove for Uber was shot dead by an unknown assailant while she was on her way to pick up her next client. Witnesses reported that the woman, who, by the way, has yet to be named, collided with another car while she was driving. Apparently, this other driver was driving during a red light, so the fault is on him, just FYI. Anyway, after a quick argument, the man pulled out a gun and shot her down. He quickly got in his car and drove away. And as of the writing of this segment, he has yet to be caught. Early Sunday morning, shortly before 3 a.m. to be exact, the bodies of 4 people had been found in a local car wash in Pennsylvania. The 4 shot were victims William Scott Porterfield, 27, Chelsea Lou Klein, 25, Courtney Sue Snyder, 23, and Seth William Klein, 21. 2 of the bodies were dumped inside a nearby truck, and the other 2 were found outdoors by the right side of the car wash. The shooter was identified as Timothy O'Brien, 27 years old. O'Brien used a semi-automatic rifle and handgun to carry out the shooting, and after he murdered the 4, he turned his handgun towards himself and shot himself in the head. However, he managed to survive, albeit in critical condition. Police say that he is not expected to survive. Police later put out a statement, calling this shooting an act of jealousy. O'Brien dated one of the victims, and wanted to get revenge for breaking up with him. Fayette County District Attorney Richard Brower had this to say: "I would like to express our condolences to the families and friends that have lost loved ones during this devastating event. I understand that this one horrific event will change their lives forever, and they will never forget the events that occurred." In Georgia, Joshua Richards, the son of police chief Josh Richards, killed his stepson by beating the young 3-year-old Bentley Gore relentlessly to death with a belt. Bentley's mother called the police after she noticed several bruises on the toddler. After taken to an Atlanta area hospital, doctors concluded that the severity of the bruises broke, dislocated, and fractured several of Bentley's bones. The most severe of the fractures was on the child's skull. There was some swelling around the eye, and several bruises around his forehead. Doctors did everything they could, but the poor boy succumbed to his injuries, and passed not long after he arrived. After the boy arrived at the hospital, investigation went underway, and found that Joshua Richards, again the boy's stepfather, was the perpetrator. He was charged with aggravated assault, aggravated battery, first-degree cruelty to children, and possession of marijuana. To add on to this list of crimes, after Bentley's death, he was also charged with murder. He is currently being held at Carroll County Jail. In 2016, Alexandria Duvall, 39 years old, was arrested for the murder of her identical twin sister, Anastasia Duvall. The two were apparently spotted having an argument in their SUV when it quickly escalated to hair pulling and biting. Witnesses claim to have overheard some of the conversation, and it is believed that they were fighting over Alexandria crashing Anastasia's vacation getaway. Alexandria must not have been too happy, as she continued to drive the SUV, speeding up directly into a ditch. She apparently got out before the car could fall into the ditch, and her sister unfortunately died on impact. The case was originally declared just to be an accident, and Alexandria got away scot-free. However, after the recent trial, new testimonies and evidence had arisen that led police to charge Alexandria yet again. What makes this case even more disturbing is that when Alexandria got back to the resort her sister was staying at, she pretended to be her. She dressed up in her sister's clothing and started to flirt with her sister's boyfriend. Her boyfriend, Federico Bailey, had this to say: "She began cuddling up with me. It seemed like she was flirting with me too. She sat down beside me, really close, and lay her head on my shoulder. She put on Anastasia's clothes. I started talking to her about what had happened. She avoided answering any of my questions. When I saw her in Anastasia's dress, it was disturbing. Anastasia had just worn that dress a few nights earlier." On January 31st, 2018, Memphis police arrived on a home on Spark Street in South Memphis. What they found was the body of Carmisha Pipes, 26 years old, and was a mother-to-be. She was expected to give birth in 1 week, on the Friday this video is to air. Sadly, her unborn child did not survive. Investigators were quick to put the blame on her boyfriend, Ricky Anderson, who was arrested under the charges of first-degree murder. As of now, he only faces murder charges for Pipe's death, but may receive more after a full autopsy is completed. 57-year-old Emmanuel Stroud Sr. was reported missing by his daughter last year on June 23, 2017. Her family of which had not heard from him since June 18th of that same year. About 8 months later, his body would finally turn up after workers working on trees on Clark Street found the body near an abandoned home in Macon, Georgia. After some investigation, 2 teenagers, 17-year-old Malcolm Peake and 17-year-old Jackavies Moore, are now being held in county jail, facing first-degree murder charges. On March 4, 2014, Brandon Mosby, 27 years old, was arrested for the murder of 48-year-old John Carey. While Mosby was beating his girlfriend and her toddler, a man, John Carey, stepped in to try and break up the fight. The two got in a quick altercation, which followed with Mosby firing a single shot that struck John Carey in the torso. He died soon after. On February 2, 2018, Mosby was officially sentenced to 58 years in New Jersey State Prison. In addition, he was found guilty of first-degree murder, second-degree possession of a weapon for unlawful purpose, and second-degree unlawful possession of a weapon. 16-year-old Kevin Adams has pleaded not guilty for the crime he was accused of. That is, the murder of his foster mother, foster sister, and his sister. He was initially arrested last November 2017, and his foster father called dispatchers to report the killings. When police arrived at the scene, they found the bodies of 55-year-old Donia Adams, 26-year-old Amory Adams, and 10-year-old Paishes Adams. This past Thursday was when he initially took his plea, and made it official on February 3, 2018, in front of his assigned investigator. However, this plea is not likely to stand in court, as when he was initially arrested, he announced to the investigators that he shot his family and waited for his father to make the call. Robert Grayson, 26 years old, and Derek Vanderpool, 23 years old, were last seen alive in Gladstone in May 1993. After the earlier arrest of a 51-year-old Rosedale man, whose identity has yet to be released, police finally had a clue about where the two victims' bodies may be found. The man suspected of murder led police to an area on the outskirts of the city, where the bodies may be found. However, late Sunday evening, the search for the two bodies had been cancelled due to bad weather. Esmond Bradley Martin, 75 years old, was an American conservationist who adored animals, and made it his life mission to stop the illegal trafficking of wildlife. Over the years, he actually managed to get several illegal traders arrested, and also managed to expose several other major areas of illegal trafficking. However, his efforts would soon be put to an end when he was found stabbed in his neck inside his own home. He was found dead late Sunday evening. An investigation into the murder went underway the following day, February 5th, 2018. Apparently, he went deep undercover into some of the industry's most notorious trade areas in an effort to protect the animals he sought to defend. This has led investigators to theorize that someone in the trade must have uncovered his true identity, only to later kill him. Martin is the second conservationist to be killed in East Africa since last August. In Missouri, mother and wife, Mary Jo Trokey, 32 years old, could have possibly been the perpetrator in a murder-suicide. The other victims, her husband Matthew Joe Trokey, 33 years old, and the couple's baby, Taylor Rose, 1 year old. The three were found dead by one of the baby's grandparents, who then notified the police. Investigators on the scene found the gun with Mary's fingerprints on it, which led them to assume that she was in fact the assailant in this case. Experts on mental illness decide to throw in their 2 cents by postpartum psychosis, a rare disorder that manifests itself in irrational behavior, all triggered by pregnancy. It could have been a factor, but it is not likely. Well, that's going to do it for this installment of Your Bi-Weekly Murder. My respect to all the families of the victims. May they be in a better place. Murder happens every single day, so remember, be careful. You never know when something terrible may happen. And on that note, today may even be your last day. So, do me a favor, stay alive. You don't want to end up on this list.